Blake Ford always found tormenting Natalie Lane to be his favorite form of entertainment. Right in front of everyone, he barked at her, calling her a shameless leech who clung to him like a parasite. His buddies burst into laughter, egging him on. Natalie stood frozen, a fruit platter in hand, unsure what to do with herself. The girl Blake had wrapped in his arms smirked with superiority, shooting a provocative glance straight at Natalie, his official girl. Over the years, Blake had been surrounded by countless women. Yet Natalie never left his side, not even for a second. But just 1 month before his 23rd birthday, she was set to walk away for good. What Blake could never have imagined, even in his wildest dreams, was that everything had been an act. Every moment, every gesture, every lingering gaze had been part of a carefully orchestrated performance. And the mastermind behind the entire charade? His own mother. The story of a mother hiring a girlfriend to care for her troubled son is just beginning to unravel. What happens next in this emotionally twisted love drama? Dear listeners, if you love emotional, heartwarming stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let's dive into a tale that will stir your heart and stay with you long after the last word. Blake Ford always took twisted pleasure in humiliating Natalie Lane. During the lavish parties thrown by his spoiled elite crowd, surrounded by glamorous women and opulence, Blake treated Natalie like nothing more than the hired help. That night, as usual, she was told to sit quietly in the corner and slice fruit. Menial work, but he made it worse on purpose. Lounging lazily on a leather sofa, Blake whistled at her from across the room with a mocking tone. "Quit slacking, clingy mutt. Everyone's waiting to be served." Around him, the room erupted in laughter. His buddies were used to this show, Blake being Blake. And Natalie, after years of standing beside him, had become painfully familiar with it too. Lowering her eyes, Natalie told herself maybe this was just fate. One of Blake's friends raised a glass and chuckled. "You really know how to keep your girl in line, man." A house staffer handed Natalie a platter of fruit slices, which she silently brought over to Blake. He was cuddled up with a porcelain-skinned beauty, who sneered as Natalie approached. "You really would do anything to stay in his house, huh?" Blake added with a smirk. "No one's cheaper than you." The whole room burst into cruel laughter. Natalie just stood there, dazed and helpless, not even reacting. The party carried on, and Blake, despite being a heavyweight drinker, was far from done. Bottles littered the floor when it was finally over. A curly-haired girl tried helping him to his room, but Blake shook her off and pulled Natalie along instead. Natalie, a small-town girl, couldn't wrap her head round these rich people games. Blake, ever dramatic, tipped his lover's chin up flirtatiously and ordered Natalie to kneel by the bed and mix drinks for them. Natalie combined 2 kinds of liquor with lemon juice and ice. Her hands were icy as she shook it up into a pale blue cocktail in a long-stemmed glass. By the time she was done, so were they. Blake casually kicked the girl out of the room, his tone suddenly cold and sharp. She stumbled out, humiliated, pulling at her dress. Blake turned toward Natalie, sipped the cocktail she made, and said calmly, "Not bad. You're improving." Leaning in closer, he smirked. "Jealous, sweetheart?" Natalie said nothing. He patted her head and chuckled. "Don't worry. My official wife will only ever be you. I need someone unusually tolerant. And what do you know, you're a perfect fit." She calmly handed him a napkin to wipe his hands, obedient, as always. As long as she followed his rules, he'd stay satisfied. Blake plucked a rose from the vase and offered it to her, grinning. "Do you like it? Or do you just say you like whatever I give you?" Her eyes flickered, but she held back her feelings. He was a patient after all. The goal was to keep him stable, so she smiled gently. If it's from you, it must be good. Unlike Blake's elite upbringing, Natalie had come from hardship. After tending to him, he went back to working overtime, as if nothing had happened. But deep in the night, he'd go unhinged, calling her non-stop, his rage shaking the phone until it nearly fell from her hand. She finally picked up. "Natalie, what the hell are you doing? You trying to dump me? You ignoring my calls now?" His manic voice rang in her ears. The familiar signs of his hypomania were flaring again. "I'm working, Blake," she said softly. "That crap job of yours, what's it even worth? Come back and take care of me. 1 month with me, and you'll have enough to live on for a year. Baby, don't be stupid." She lowered her gaze. He only ever remembered her in the dead of night, when loneliness clawed at him. She didn't understand. Blake clearly resented her, yet never let her go. In fact, he contacted her every single day. If she ever went silent, he lost his mind. She used to be hurt by it. But each time she resisted, he'd punish her with unforgettable cruelty. The Ford family often hosted extravagant galas. Their guest lists were filled with the wealthy and the well-connected. Natalie Lane had never been allowed to attend one, until tonight. For the first time ever, Blake Ford told her to carry in a tray of wine. Maybe he'd gotten too used to her waiting on him. It came naturally now. Throughout the party, Blake treated her like a servant. The other women, all dressed in couture gowns, chatted with him cheerfully. With women from his world, Blake played the role of the elegant gentleman, charming, refined, full of clever quips. Natalie stood quietly, head lowered, holding the tray. She didn't even realize one of the socialite's glasses was empty, until she was tapped on the arm. "Refill, please," the woman said with a sideways smirk. Blake heard her, but said nothing. He simply let it happen, like Natalie really was nothing more than the help. Natalie poured the wine and stepped back, heart sinking. She never cared for status or prestige, but a small part of her had hoped Blake might at least see her as something more. A friend, maybe. But tonight proved otherwise. She was nothing but a background character in his glittering world. Luckily, she wouldn't be around much longer. From a young age, Blake had been groomed to be exceptional. The small company his father handed to him had, under Blake's leadership, grown into a multi-million-dollar powerhouse. Riding high on a wave of early success, he brought home a brand new luxury car and couldn't wait to show it off. Natalie had been tending her little backyard garden when he drove straight into the yard and crushed her carefully grown flowers beneath his tires. The engine roared like a wild beast. "Pretty sweet ride, huh?" he asked smugly. Natalie stared at her flattened garden, her heart burning with silent fury. Blake had always been like this, narcissistic, reckless, self-absorbed. She thought maybe, just maybe, as his depression improved, they'd be able to get along better. But he only ever disappointed. She swallowed her frustration and forced a smile. "It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it." He crooked a finger at her, like teasing a kitten. "Come on, I'll take you for a spin." Natalie wiped the dirt from her hands and stepped forward. But before she could get in, Blake wrinkled his nose. "Never mind, don't dirty my car." She froze. The contempt in his voice and eyes pierced through her like a shard of glass. The sports car roared away, and Natalie stood motionless, breath caught in her chest. She called his mother, the one who had hired her for this job. "He's doing better. Can I resign now?" There was hesitation on the other end. "Sweetheart, his birthday's coming up. Could you stay just a little longer? After the party, I'll handle everything. Just tell him you went abroad, all right?" Natalie sighed. Be kind to the end, she told herself. If you help a soul, help them all the way. Back in 11th grade, she had witnessed a boy try to take his life by jumping from the 5th floor. By some miracle, someone had called for help in time. He survived. At the time, she'd been working part-time in a bookstore nearby. Not long after, a well-dressed woman stopped her and begged for help. She had already investigated Natalie's background and knew she was smart, kind, and came from a loving family. The woman wanted her to help heal her son, who suffered from severe depression and hypomania, by making him fall in love with her. Natalie said no, but then she saw his photo. He had a striking face, flawless features that were hard to forget, and he looked exactly like the boy she'd seen jump that day. So she agreed. The woman promised an exorbitant salary. All Natalie had to do was love him. The first time she met Blake, he looked like a wild animal, a savage wolf with a sculpted face, but a soul paper thin. Terrified, she handed him flowers and confessed her feelings. He threw them in her face and sneered, "You whore." She heard that insult so many times it echoed in her ears. It wasn't until her 9th confession that Blake finally hesitated. He looked at her, his eyes clouded with suspicion and maybe curiosity. Then he agreed. And just like that, Natalie and Blake started dating. But really, it wasn't a relationship. It was a job. Blake Ford was like shattered glass, once beautiful, now dangerous. Every day was filled with pressure, endless lessons, and suffocating expectations from his elite upbringing. He'd been pushed so far, he'd become twisted. When he was hurt, he lashed out, to everyone, especially her. It was as if seeing someone else in pain made him feel a little more whole. Though the process had been difficult, the most important thing had been achieved. Blake Ford no longer had thoughts of ending his life. His mother's wish had finally come true. And for Natalie Lane, her assignment was complete. The job she had taken, the act she had performed, had reached its natural end. Still, endings required emotional preparation. Natalie quietly hoped that she and Blake could at least remain friends. After all, nothing truly intimate had ever happened between them. But Blake didn't seem to get the memo. As soon as he got off work, he raced over to her place. Natalie pushed him away, firm but gentle. "Blake," she said, "don't you think we're more like friends?" Blake stared at her like she'd grown 2 heads. "If you keep talking crap like that," he warned, "I'll throw you on the bed and prove we're not." She tried not to flinch. That evening, he asked her to make him a drink. Natalie had picked up a pineapple earlier and used it to mix a cocktail with gin and citrus, bright orange like a sunset sky. She added a lemon twist to the rim. It looked like something out of a 5-star bar. Blake took one sip and groaned in delight. "You're getting better and better at this." Natalie seized the moment. "I've been thinking about us." He pulled out a cigarette, smirking. "What's this? A proposal? Scared I'll get stolen by someone else?" She took a slow sip of her own drink, frowning slightly. "Honestly, I feel like we're more like siblings. Maybe friendship suits us better." She prayed he wouldn't pick up on what she was really trying to do. But Blake's temper ignited instantly. He slammed the glass down and exploded. "I don't want some pre-planned arranged marriage. Don't piss me off, Natalie. You won't get a damn thing if you do." And just like that, he stormed out. Natalie sat alone in the quiet, exhaling long and slow. She had tried, really tried, but there was only so much she could do. Blake's birthday bash that year shook the city's social scene. Everyone who was anyone had shown up. Natalie stood in a corner in her evening gown, watching it all unfold. She wasn't even asked to serve drinks. She didn't mind. Watching from the shadows, she felt something shift inside her. That boy, the one who used to stare blankly into the void, he wasn't gone, but he wasn't alone anymore. He had family, women around him, a future, maybe. And she? She had done what she came to do. They say saving a life is more noble than building 7 temples. And Natalie had saved his. Just as she was turning to leave, a woman in a designer dress shoved her hard. A glass shattered. All eyes turned. Blake glanced over, but said nothing. He looked away and kept drinking. Natalie quietly gathered the shards of broken glass, left the ballroom, and whispered under her breath, "Happy birthday, Blake Ford. Goodbye." The matriarch had arranged everything for her, quietly, efficiently. Natalie relocated to a small town. Her parents were settled. Her living expenses were covered for life. It was more than fair. She thought it would all end peacefully. She was wrong. Her phone blew up. Message after message. Missed call after missed call. "Where the hell are you? Did you run off with some guy? Call me back now. Who gave you the damn right to disappear like that?" It had only been 2 days. And already, Blake remembered her. Natalie didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Of course, she didn't respond. She waited for her new SIM card from Blake's mom. That night, while playing mahjong with friends, her phone buzzed violently again. "Late night, and the prince is lonely, huh?" her friend teased. The first message blinked on screen. "Do you not need me anymore?" Right as she was about to play her tile, she shouted, "Not playing?" Her friends stared at her. "Fine, but why the dramatics?" Natalie looked down. In her mind, she saw Blake, wild-eyed, sleepless, unraveling. Oh no. She shook her head. She had to forget him. This was insane. All of this. For a $30-a-month paycheck. Blake's calls kept coming. 20 calls, dozens of texts per minute. That night, she lost 20 grand playing mahjong. Everyone laughed. Except her. She went home in silence. Her parents were chatting with the neighbours next door. Natalie sat in the backyard, petting the golden retriever they'd just adopted. Sweet thing. Dumb but loyal. The dessert shop she'd opened, her passion project, had already burned through over 100,000 in startup costs. She sighed. No wonder everyone says, "Don't start a business unless you're insane." The whole thing was Blake's fault, really. Back when she worked for the Fords, his mother had brought in therapists to help manage his emotional outbursts. But Blake never cooperated. One time, while the therapist was trying to get through to him, Blake blew smoke in his face and muttered, "You really want to understand me? Then get in bed with me." That was the last therapist his mum ever hired. Some of them said Blake was past the golden window for treatment. His personality and worldview were already set. Changing him now would be nearly impossible. But Natalie had asked, what if he had met someone earlier? Say, in middle school? Maybe then. Maybe he wouldn't be in so much pain. The experts agreed. That seed planted an idea in her head. Back then, a news story had shaken the nation. A high school boy jumped from the roof. The photo of his bloodied body had made front-page headlines. Natalie never forgot. And so, a childish but determined idea took root. She would open a dessert shop near a school, a place for healing, for warmth, a safe haven for students fighting battles no one else could see. And now, that plan had just begun to unfold. Natalie Lane had just started to calm her life down when Blake Ford shattered it all again. He'd finally found her. "Natalie, get up! You've got to see this," her nosy neighbour called as she yanked her out of bed. Natalie rubbed her eyes groggily. "Auntie, it's only 6. What kind of drama are we talking about this early?" The older woman shoved a phone in her face. "Everyone's talking about it." A crazy handsome man showed up across the street with over 100 bodyguards. "They're turning the whole neighborhood upside down, looking for someone." Word is, his wife ran off with a ton of cash and another man, and even the kid might not be his. Now he's out for revenge. Look, isn't he gorgeous? Natalie blinked at the screen, and her heart dropped. Blake. What the hell, Blake? She yanked the blanket around herself in panic. "How far have they searched?" she asked, peeking out the window. "They're at the building next door. You've got maybe 5 minutes, tops." Natalie didn't even hesitate. "I'm running!" Down the stairs she flew. But by the time she reached the street, a sleek sports car was already turning the corner. The window rolled down, and there he was. Blake's eyes locked on hers like a predator spotting prey. Pure rage burned in his expression. Natalie broke into a sprint. She darted through 2 blocks and into her bakery-turned-wellness cafe, slamming the office door and locking it behind her. Her chest heaved. Her hands trembled. From the other side of the door, she heard the crash of something heavy, and a voice, his voice, bellowing. "Natalie, you little shut! If you don't come out in 3 minutes, I swear I'll smash every damn thing in this shop." She crouched in the corner, barely breathing. The last time Blake lost it like this, the guy he went after ended up in the hospital for months. Natalie's frame was nowhere near sturdy enough to survive that. Before she could even react, the lock snapped and the door flew open. Blake stormed in. He grabbed her arm, his grip vice-tight. "So you used me and ran," he growled, shoving her against the wall. "You're something else, Natalie. Got hackers to erase your trail, changed your IP to look like you're overseas. Was that the plan? To haunt me forever?" He gripped her chin. She couldn't move. His patience was gone. "Say something. Cat got your tongue?" She said nothing. Her heart was pounding too loud. He leaned in, his lips inches from hers. But all Natalie could think of was how many women he'd kissed with that mouth. Germs, regret, disease, a whole ecosystem of bacteria. She jerked her head away. His kiss landed on her cheek. Frustrated, she smacked his chest. "Blake, can you act like a normal human being for once?" He stilled. Then, without a word, he wrapped his arms around her. He held her tight, tighter than ever. "Don't go," he whispered, voice shaking. "You haven't talked to me in days. I thought you didn't care anymore." Something in her froze. Was he crying? Was this another episode? She didn't have time to figure it out, because the next thing she saw was a pair of handcuffs. "I'm losing it, Natalie. You're cruel. You won't even answer one damn text." He looked her dead in the eyes. "You want to save people, right? Isn't that your thing? Playing savior? Well, here I am, broken, rotten, dying inside. And what do? You run." He snapped the cuffs onto her wrist. "Too bad. We're stuck with each other now. You wanted to rescue me? Then don't think you get to walk away." Images of his mother crying into her hands flashed through Natalie's mind. She'd promised not to hurt him, so she didn't fight. But the second he turned his head, she yanked free and bolted. The streets were open and airy. She needed to think, Fast! And run faster. Natalie Lane had just made it to the police station. When she called the lady of the house, Mrs. Ford, Blake Ford had officially lost his mind. While frantically thinking of where to go next, she ran into someone. A guy, dressed simply, wearing a black mask. He had these dark, piercing eyes that stared at her with interest. Natalie, dazed and a little shocked, couldn't shake the weird sense of déjà vu. But escaping was more important right now. Sorry. Please move. I've got to go, she blurted, trying to rush past him. He grabbed her wrist lightly, his gaze shifting toward the chaos behind her. Blake Ford was closing in. The man chuckled under his mask. You look like you could use a lift. I've got a car. Want a ride? Natalie glanced toward the luxury sports car parked nearby and hesitated. If it's not too much. Or maybe you can just call the police for me. He opened the car door with a gentlemanly wave. The cops don't deal in emotional debts. Let me help you. I don't mind a little trouble. And don't worry, this place is crawling with cameras. I've got no reason to hurt you. He was right. And compared to Blake, this guy seemed way less likely to explode. So she got in. Behind them, Blake's furious voice echoed down the street as he chased the car, yelling over the roar of the engine. Natalie, you ran from me again. Damn it, I won't let you go. His rage was wild, animalistic. Natalie shivered in the seat as the driver calmly pulled away. Then he pulled down his mask. She turned and gasped. He looked shockingly similar to Blake. Same bone structure, same intense energy, but softer, cooler, like water instead of fire. Thank you, she managed, still shaken. What's your name? He smiled. Call me Cole. Natalie froze. Cole, you're kidding me, right? She caught herself, embarrassed. Sorry, I had a falling out with someone who shares your last name. I didn't mean anything by it. He glanced into the rearview mirror and smirked. That didn't sound like a minor disagreement. Oh, and you know Vanessa Din, right? Owner of that dessert shop? Natalie blinked. You know Vanessa? I'm a business partner of hers, he replied. Small world. Natalie quickly texted Vanessa to confirm, and within seconds got a surprised reply. Apparently, they really did know each other. Well, lucky me, Cole said, his tone playful. My enemies finally came looking, and I found you instead. He paused. If you're okay with it, why don't you lay low at my place for a while? My situation's a little unusual, but with me around, I promise you'll be safe. There was something fox-like in the way he smiled, something both charming and mischievous. Natalie didn't sense danger. And besides, he had helped her. Thank you, she said. I owe you dinner. But when he pulled into the underground parking of a sleek hotel, her brows furrowed. Wait, where exactly are we going? Cole gave her a wink. I don't live in this city. I arranged a quick trip with a friend's private jet. Come on, this way. He led her to the rooftop, where a sleek jet awaited them. It was spacious, room for 18, beautifully furnished. Nothing like the cramped flights she was used to. They talked throughout the flight. By the time the plane landed, Natalie felt like she could finally breathe again. But the moment she stepped outside, she realized something strange. They were back in City B. What the hell? Cole drove her to his family estate, where, of all people, Mrs. Ford was standing at the gate, looking completely stunned. Cole, what are you doing back so soon? She asked. And Natalie, why are you? She didn't get to finish. A second car came screeching up the driveway. Blake jumped out and slammed the car door behind him, eyes blazing. He spotted her standing beside Cole and exploded. "Cole, you bastard! How dare you show your face at my house? Stay away from her. She's mine. You touch her, and I'll break your damn hands." Mrs. Ford quickly pulled Natalie aside and whispered, "Cole is from an affair. A son my husband never acknowledged. You didn't know, did you?" Natalie's head spun. So that was it. The name, the face, it all made sense now. But Cole didn't flinch under Blake's screaming. Hands in his pockets, expression calm. He looked amused by his half-brother's tantrum. "You're really worked up over this girl," Cole said lazily. "Guess that means I'll be keeping her around a little longer." Blake snapped. He grabbed a chair and hurled it. But Cole sidestepped like it was nothing. Then the family patriarch appeared, Mr. Ford himself, dressed in a tailored suit, his expression sharp and commanding. "Blake, have you lost your damn mind?" Blake, who feared no one, immediately shut up under his father's glare. Mrs. Ford nudged Natalie gently. "Go with Cole for now. Sit with him. Blake won't dare try anything in front of his father." Natalie hesitated, but followed her advice. Mr. Ford convened a family meeting. Though most of it went over Natalie's head, she caught the important part. 30% of the Ford estate was being reassigned to Cole. The room went still. Blake's jaw clenched. "He's a bastard," Blake said, voice shaking. "He grew up shoveling pig crap in the middle of nowhere. He's a joke, a disgrace. And now you're handing everything over to him? All those years of ass-kissing and board meetings. Was it all for nothing?" Mr. Ford's expression grew darker by the second. The air in the room seemed to thicken, making Natalie instinctively nervous. He slammed his hand on the table. "You call yourself smart, Blake? Smart enough to throw your life away over some woman? Smart enough to nearly jump off a damn building after one emotional setback? Your grandmother worries about you every single day, and this is how you repay her? You're becoming selfish." He turned to face him fully now. "We had a long-standing partnership, one that would have benefited both sides. But because one detail wasn't exactly the way you wanted it, you cancelled the entire contract. Do you even think before you act?" Cole Ford, standing nearby, looked like he was enjoying the drama, even adding fuel to the fire with a subtle shake of the head. "Guess Blake's allergic to compromise," he muttered, feigning helplessness. "Don't worry about me, Dad. I'm fine staying out in the countryside. I'll be just fine." Mr. Ford knew Cole was intentionally provoking Blake, but that didn't stop him from appreciating the sentiment. "Look at your brother. At least he has a calm temperament. And you? You're getting more volatile every day, polluting the air with your tantrums, and wasting perfectly good space." Blake let out a bitter laugh. "Great. Let's see what your little bastard does with all that inheritance." Behind the estate, the Ford family's private rose garden bloomed in neat rows. Blake had been ordered by his father to get back to business, but Cole was free to wander. Natalie tried to slip away through the side gate. She felt like she'd gotten too entangled in this house and this family. What had started as just a job had gotten out of control. She still had her sweet shop to look after. And even though she owed Cole a favor, she figured she'd pay him back some other time. For now, she just wanted to leave quietly. But he caught her before she made it to the gate. Cole stood in front of her, putting on that innocent look that made him seem younger than he was. "So you're just going to use me and disappear?" he asked. "Let me guess. You look down on me too, right? Just like everyone else. I didn't go to some fancy prep school. I don't play the piano, can't paint, don't know a damn thing about fine art. Just a kid who grew up rowing boats in a dusty little town. I'm not good enough for you either, huh?" He dropped his gaze, the bridge of his nose casting a shadow across his face. Natalie's gut told her he wasn't joking. She shook her head. You've got it all wrong. If anyone's being looked down on, it's me. You're a Ford. Everyone looks up to you whether they like it or not. Cole picked a rose and mumbled, but I'm the illegitimate son. You know what that means? It means the first wife gets to point at me. Like I'm the sin incarnate. Like just being born was the crime. Natalie reached out, gently patted his shoulder. None of that's your fault. Honestly, you're kinder than your brother. You're sharp, charming, you're one of a kind. His ears turned a little pink. He reached up and messed her hair affectionately. You're too nice. No wonder the psycho's obsessed with you. Makes me kind of curious now. Natalie laughed, then caught herself. Her training kicked in. She almost said too much. Cole caught the hesitation and narrowed his fox-like eyes. What's that supposed to mean? Were you hired to get close to Blake? Are you a therapist or something sent by his mom? She tried to brush it off. Don't be ridiculous. But he wasn't buying it. He studied her face for a long moment before giving her a smug grin. I knew it. So, what did she pay you? Must have been a lot. If you were willing to get tangled with someone like Blake Ford. His tone wasn't cruel, more amused. Like he was genuinely impressed. Well, don't worry, he said. I'll protect you from now on. Watching him get mad kind of makes me happy anyway. That evening, Natalie received a text from Mrs. Ford, asking her to meet in the study. She went upstairs. A cup of tea was already waiting on a tray. Mrs. Ford sat in a silk robe, reading a book. Natalie, come in. Sit. Natalie pulled the chair out hesitantly. Her mood still clouded. Ma'am, I didn't share my address. I have no idea how Blake found me. Mrs. Ford took a sip of tea, clearly unfazed. That boy of mine isn't dumb. His condition still isn't fully stable, but according to his psychiatrist, his emotional indicators are within normal range now. Still a bit obsessive, though. Behind her, the bookshelves were stacked, with psychology and philosophy titles. It was clear she'd done her homework over the years. Natalie picked up her tea and asked cautiously, Do you plan to relocate me somewhere else? Mrs. Ford shook her head. I want you to stay a while longer. I'll pay you the same rate as before. Natalie nodded. She didn't have much choice. As long as Blake was unstable, she still needed the woman's protection. As she was about to leave, Mrs. Ford added casually, By the way, how did you and Cole meet? Natalie blinked. It was a coincidence. I bumped into him while Blake was chasing me, and I asked for help. Just dumb luck, I guess. Mrs. Ford smiled faintly. I moved your room. You'll be next door to Cole. With him around, Blake won't try anything too bold. She winked. Don't say I helped you, though. The butler did it. That wing's under renovation. Natalie closed the door softly behind her. Yes, ma'am, I understand. Downstairs, Blake was livid. She's mine, he yelled, slamming his teacup to the ground. Why the hell is she rooming next to that bastard? A servant quickly pulled him back before the scalding tea hit anyone. Cole, standing nearby, stepped in front of Natalie. Planning on dragging her off now? He asked casually. If you can't keep her safe, I'll do it myself. Cole casually slipped an arm around her shoulders. His silky hair shimmered under the light, tousled and smooth, looking oddly like a fluffy fox. Natalie couldn't help herself. She reached out, ran her fingers through it, and softly laughed. Wow, she murmured, grinning. You're the best. Cole didn't flinch. In fact, he tilted his head slightly, nudging into her palm like a cat. Then, Without warning, he leaned his forehead against hers. The two of them were suddenly so close. Natalie stared into his eyes deeper and more entrancing than anything she'd ever seen. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed, hands gently holding her face. He looked like he was about to kiss her. But then, "You bastard! What the hell are you doing?" Blake's voice thundered from the hallway. Before either of them could move, Blake hurled a decorative vase at Cole. It shattered on impact against his shoulder. Cole didn't dodge. He just stood there, calm and unbothered, as the pieces fell to the ground. Seeing Cole so composed only made Blake angrier. He charged forward and yanked Cole to his feet, barking, "Stay away from what's mine. I hate when people touch my things. And one more thing. Tessa, the heir to the Song family, is downstairs. If you embarrass me today, I swear." Cole's expression didn't change, but his voice was firmer now. "First of all, she's not a thing. Second of all, she's not yours." Blake's jaw clenched, veins standing out in his neck. Before he could curse again, Mr. Ford's voice rang out from downstairs. "Blake, get down here and welcome Miss Song properly." Blake had no choice but to let go and head downstairs. As his footsteps faded, Natalie turned to Cole. "She must be important." Cole shrugged. "She is. Comes from old money. Her family basically helped build the country. She's legacy." He extended a hand to her. "Come on, let's head down together after you change." Later, in the grand parlour, the two of them stuck close to the corner of the room, nibbling on pastries. In the past, Natalie had always stood alone at these events. But now, she had an ally. Blake stood at the centre of the crowd, handsome in a tailored black suit. The perfect gentleman. You wouldn't know from his appearance that he was emotionally unhinged. The other young elites gathered around him, gushing over the arrival of the day's guest of honour, Miss Tessa Song. Everyone was dressed to impress in designer suits and custom couture. Natalie stood on tiptoe, trying to get a look at the girl. Cole noticed her curiosity and crouched down. "Want a better view?" Without waiting for her answer, he lifted her up just enough to peek over the crowd. Natalie's breath caught. There she was, wearing a floor-length white dress, understated yet stunning. Tessa's face carried the kind of timeless, classic beauty you'd see in vintage portraits. Nothing about her outfit was flashy, yet every stitch spoke of grace and power. Amid the loud colours and dramatic cuts, she was serene and impossible to ignore. A real debutante, elegant, untouchable. Because Cole was taller than the others, Tessa noticed them. She turned her head slightly, smiled, and nodded in Natalie's direction. Natalie felt her chest tighten. "Oh no, she's actually really charming." Because Tessa had looked over, the rest of the crowd followed her gaze. Many of them were part of Blake's circle. When they saw Cole and Natalie, a few exchanged glances, then scoffed. He blinked in surprise, then removed one of his earbuds. "What did you say?" Only then did she realize he'd been listening to music this whole time, his soft hair brushed against her nose, teasing and light. It was almost like he knew what he was doing. Natalie pushed him away, lips pursed. "Forget it, it's nothing. I was just being professionally nice." But her words trailed off, when she felt a chilling gaze on her from across the room, and she didn't have to look to know who it was from. Blake's expression darkened, clearly displeased at the growing closeness between Natalie and Cole. A bad feeling prickled in her chest. She could tell Blake was about to snap. He'd done his research thoroughly. He knew that Tessa, the debutante of the day, had a soft spot for racing. In fact, she'd competed in several professional events and always placed near the top. The private road nearby had been lined with elite sports cars, all prepped and ready. It was Blake's idea to impress her and entertain the crowd. Natalie and Cole trailed behind the group. As others piled into the flashy vehicles, the two of them stood off to the side, clearly excluded. "Do you know how to drive a race car?" she asked him quietly. Before Cole could respond, Blake pointed a finger in his face. "I don't pay you to run your mouth. Do what I say and shut up." Yes, totally. My bad." The guy backpedaled quickly. Cole snickered quietly. Natalie elbowed him. "What's so funny?" The sly fox leaned in and whispered, "That whole exchange? Blake looked like a pissed-off husky trying to scold people." Natalie burst out laughing, too loudly. The whole group turned toward them. Blake's face was like thunder. One of the young men nearby burst into laughter. "Him? Please." "I'd be surprised if he even has a license. Isn't he just the country boy who used to raise pigs or something?" The surrounding guys cracked up, a few even doubling over in laughter. Another young man slung him around Cole's shoulder, smirking. "Hey man, if this isn't your scene, don't force it. No car, no credentials. Why even show up?" It was classic rich boy mockery. They did it out of habit. Cole let out a soft chuckle, leaned close to the guy's ear, and whispered, "Honestly, pigs are cleaner than you, especially ones that don't catch STDs from screwing around." The guy's face morphed in rage. He raised a fist to punch Cole, but Blake stepped in. "Don't!" Blake ordered. "Tessa's pulling up any second. You make a scene. You embarrass me." The guy reluctantly lowered his hand and turned to Blake, smiling sheepishly. "You're right, Blake. I was just trying to teach the kid a lesson." "Real funny," he sneered. "Isn't it enough that you two embarrassed yourselves all day? Pathetic. But I guess trash attracts trash." Then he spun around. "Enough wasting time. Get in the cars." The rest of the group followed him, piling into their sleek sports cars like they were royalty. One guy even flipping Cole off through the window. Cole slung an arm around Natalie and announced, loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Guess that means we get a date of our own, huh?" His voice was lazy and flirtatious. "On the way here, I spotted this gorgeous cherry blossom riverbank. There were even paddle boats. Want to go with me?" Natalie hesitated, glancing around. The idea was tempting. Blake, overhearing, fumed, but with Tessa present, he couldn't lash out. He shot her a murderous glare, trying to warn her not to go. But Natalie had had enough of his tantrums. She smiled and let Cole drag her away. They walked under falling cherry blossoms, following a quiet path by the river. Around them, others strolled in traditional outfits. Cole had both hands in his pockets, unusually silent. Natalie sensed he was still bitter about the earlier mockery. Trying to cheer him up, she offered, "Forget those guys. If you don't race, you don't race. Who cares? There'll be other chances." Cole plucked a blossom from the air, twirling it between his fingers. "Bunch of rich, unloved psychos. I couldn't care less. Honestly, being here with you is better than anything they're doing." Natalie smiled softly. He paused, lips tightening slightly. "Actually, I do regret one thing." She glanced at him, curious. Cole's eyes sparkled mischievously. "I almost kissed you earlier. Would have too if that lunatic Blake hadn't interrupted." Her face flamed red. Cole, of course, noticed. "You're blushing." "Shut it!" she muttered, smacking his arm. "Keep talking and I'll punch you." The little fox pouted, looking utterly pitiful. "Why is everyone so mean to me?" His theatrics made her laugh, just as a roaring engine approached. A sleek, fire-red sports car skidded to a stop in front of them. The window rolled down. A man in a custom traditional-style jacket leaned out the window, resting his arm on the sill. "Cole!" he called out, smirking. "Slipped back to the city without telling your crew. Let me guess. Love story?" Natalie stared at the car, stunned. It was a limited edition hypercar, one of those special models worth over $10 million. Cole noticed the guy's grin and said with a smirk, "If you've got the guts to face my crazy brother, I'll take you home with me tonight. I'll introduce you properly. This is my friend, Trey Harmon. He's not exactly the polite type, so don't mind him." Trey gave Natalie a courteous wave. She returned the gesture and introduced herself politely. "Natalie, nice to meet you." The three of them strolled around for a bit. About 3 miles ahead, there was a flower festival and a boat race happening. Trey suggested, "Why don't we drive over and check it out? My parents are caught up in some business meetings today. And, honestly, I'm not super familiar with this city. Might as well kill time." Cole turned to Natalie. "You up for it?" The outfits of passers-by were colourful and eye-catching, and Natalie's curiosity was already piqued. "Yeah, let's go if it's not too much trouble." They got into the car, and Natalie glanced around at the luxurious interior. Quietly, she thought about the way the matriarch had dismissed Cole, as if he had no future, no skills, nothing to his name. But clearly, she didn't know him very well. Watching him now, seated with such calm confidence, she couldn't help but imagine an entire hidden backstory, some power struggle waiting to unfold. The more she thought about it, the more Cole seemed like someone quietly waiting for the right moment. Cole sipped a drink from the car's minibar, completely unaware she was deep in thought. Natalie leaned in, wrapped an arm around his shoulder, and teased, "Don't forget us little people when you're rich and famous." He blinked at her. "Calling me that sounds weird coming from you, but I'll do my best." They passed rows of flower displays lining the road. Cole frowned. "Isn't the flower festival usually in February? It's late May now, what's going on?" Trey replied casually, "This city dropped out of most cultural events for a while, but they've started reviving some traditions recently." Natalie perked up. "Does your hometown have one of these festivals?" "Sure does," Cole answered. "We've had them since elementary school. Our area grows a lot of flowers. Originally, it was part of a provincial initiative to boost local culture and agriculture, so the education board supported it. It became a tradition after that." Trey nodded. "It's actually kind of fun." Cole's expression softened with the memory. "Yeah. People used to wear traditional clothes and line the streets, decorating everything with flowers. Of course, it's changed a lot. Now it's mostly commercial. Vendors jack up prices by claiming random blooms have magical properties or some romantic symbolism." Trey laughed. "It's a scam. If you buy, you feel ripped off. If you don't, you feel regret." Natalie chuckled too. She suddenly found herself looking forward to next year's festival. "So," she asked, "did you ever buy any?" Cole's gaze flicked up to her face, then smiled. "Yeah, a lot of couples treat it like Valentine's Day. They say tying a flower to a branch is like blessing their future marriage. At the time I thought it was corny, but now I'm glad I did." His fox-like eyes glimmered. Natalie blushed and looked away. Before they even arrived, her phone buzzed violently. Blake. Text after text rolled in. "Where are you? Natalie, where the hell are you? Answer me, please." She'd planned to ignore it like usual, until the last 2 messages stopped her in her tracks. "I'm not saying I can't change. I just can't control myself sometimes. If you like that clingy bastard, I can try to be like that too. Just don't fall for that illegitimate freak." Please. Natalie blinked at the screen, stunned. It wasn't even dark yet. But from her experience, Blake only sent messages like this when he was on the edge. His ego didn't allow vulnerability unless he was near emotional collapse. She sighed. How was she supposed to explain everything to him? The fake relationship. It had started as an act. An assignment, really, but somehow she'd gotten tangled in it. You okay? Cole asked softly. She put the phone away. I'm fine. Just thinking we should head back soon. Didn't even get to say goodbye to Tessa. Feels kind of rude. Cole glanced at his watch. There are only 2 races in. That's about 90 minutes. We've got time to walk around. Sounds good, she said. They hadn't even been gone for 2 minutes. The 2 of them finally arrived. A beautifully crafted sign at the gate read, Spring Blossom Festival. Outside the car, the entire exhibit was a stunning spectacle. Young women dressed in flowing hamfu-style gowns twirled fans to cover their faces. In the centre, games were taking place, with prize money handed out in bright red envelopes for winners. Cole tugged Natalie through the crowd like an excited kid. Everything he'd said earlier was spot on. A massive sculpture stood at the heart of the square. The sculpture had the words, Flower Spirit scrawled in bold calligraphy. The vivid statue held fresh flowers in its hands. Natalie took a red slip of paper and wrote down her wish. Peace, steady work, and long-lasting health. She glanced over at Cole's slip, just one line. May your heart beat in sync with mine. A girl dressed in hamfu smiled at the 2 of them. She pointed to a game station and said, Couples can try this challenge. There's a cash prize if you win. Trey Harmon was all over the place, checking out every game station. Geez, these are all folk games. I don't even know how to play half of them. There's even one about guessing traditional customs. I'd get 8 wrong. Both guys looked to Natalie. She laughed nervously. I was a science major, remember? I'd long forgotten anything about arts and culture. Honestly, you 2 probably stand a better chance than me. A commotion by the riverside caught their attention. Trey took off running to check it out. He waved wildly. Cole, Natalie! Come on, we can sign up for the rowing race! The riverside was lively, scattered with flower petals floating atop the water. The rules were simple. Within 10 minutes, players had to row out and collect as many flowers as possible. The prompts were displayed on a giant screen. The team that collected the most would win. This doesn't need any cultural knowledge, Trey beamed. It's perfect for us. Cole quickly pulled out a fan to cover his face, acting like he didn't know Trey. But with enough excitement, the 3 of them climbed aboard a boat. There were 5 teams in total. 3 were already ready. Only 1 team spot was left unclaimed. After 2 minutes of waiting and no new sign-ups, Natalie checked the time. Looks like everyone prefers quiz games over physical ones. Trey sighed. Too bad. The prize is a pair of handcrafted ceramic lovers' dolls modelled after the flower spirit. Super detailed and collectible. That caught Natalie's interest. Wow, okay. Then let's do it. Just then, the referee blew the whistle. Team 5 is now in position. They looked toward the voice. Sitting coldly on the opposing team's boat was Blake, face stone set, eyes fixed on Natalie. 2 men sat beside him. Oh no, Natalie thought. Why him, of all people? Cole and Blake locked eyes. Tension flared instantly. The air practically crackled with it. Blake barked at the referee. Start the game already! His glare alone made the poor man panic. Begin! The referee shouted. What was supposed to be a light-hearted game quickly turned competitive. Blake activated war mode, rowing straight toward the largest patch of floating flowers. Just as another team neared, Blake shoved their boat away. He threw Natalie's team a daring look. Trey, irritated, muttered, What the hell is wrong with this guy? Cole gave a cold snort. So much for manners. Natalie, now fully invested, threw herself into the race, not to win, but to keep Blake from the prize. Nearby, another team was struggling with their boat. Natalie's team didn't flinch. They worked hard, gathering 5 blossoms into their basket. Yes, we're almost there, Natalie cheered. Keep rowing, they're catching up. Blake glanced back, his eyes flashing with a strange emptiness. The scoreboard showed a tie between the two teams. Only one flower remained. A Hamfu-dressed girl on shore lowered the final blossom into the water. She waved a silk scarf as a signal. Both boats neared it at the same time. Suddenly, one of Blake's teammates leapt across. He pushed their basket of flowers into the river. Cole shoved the guy off. "You cheat piece of trash," he snapped. He grabbed at the drifting basket. But Blake wasn't done. He dove into the water. Blake kicked both Cole and Trey overboard. Before anyone could react, the two men splashed into the river, limbs flailing. Natalie stood up in shock. But Blake was faster. He grabbed her and lifted her off the boat. "You think you can take what's mine?" he growled. "You? A nobody?" Natalie screamed as Blake dragged her into his car. This time, he was even more relentless. He used silk scarves to tie her hands again. "Have you completely lost it?" she shouted. "Let me go!" The car sped off, tires screeching, before skidding to a stop by the roadside. Blake turned to her, grabbing her wrist. "You weren't worried? I hadn't contacted you for so long and you didn't care. But the second that clingy brat falls in the water, suddenly you panic." He was wearing a life jacket, Natalie. "You think he was gonna drown?" His eyes were bloodshot now. "Why didn't you answer my texts?" he demanded. She didn't respond. Silence was the only defense she had left. It only enraged him further. "So you won't even talk to me now? Who was the one kneeling like a dog back then? Huh? Who begged me to love her? 9 times you told me you had to be with me." He clutched her face, forcing her to look at him. "You think you can leave me now? A psycho like me and a saint like you? We're perfect for each other. Let's suffer together forever." He threw her idea at her feet. "I just had an idea," he said with a crooked smile. "Let's get married." Natalie stared at him, horrified. "You want to marry someone who doesn't love you?" Blake's voice dropped an octave. "Who said I don't love you?" He was trembling now. Tell me you don't love me." "You've stayed with me for years. Don't pretend it meant nothing." "Interesting idea. Who would have guessed you were such a good girl with all those crazy thoughts running through your head? But today, it's not going to go your way." He stroked Natalie's cheek with a false tenderness. "I wasn't great to you before. Cold. Distant. But after we get married, I swear I'll change. No more messing around. Just me and you." Her heart sank, full of despair. She didn't want to pretend anymore. "I'd rather believe in fairy tales than believe a word you say," she replied flatly. Blake ignored her and smiled, oddly satisfied, though it wasn't clear whether it was anger or amusement behind that smile. Natalie couldn't understand the twisted mess that was his mind. The car pulled into the garage of an old estate. Cole, soaked and dishevelled, had already changed clothes and was anxiously looking around. As soon as Natalie stepped inside, he ran up. "I knew Blake would bring you here. Are you okay?" "I just got here, and you weren't around. I was scared." She grabbed his arm. "Are you and Trey all right? You both got hurt yesterday. Did your injuries get worse?" "We're fine. I've got thick skin and Trey's doing okay too." Just then, Blake strolled in after parking. He scowled at Cole. "You again? Didn't drink enough river water yesterday? You'd better be out of City B by tomorrow or I'll have someone strip you naked and dump you in the streets. You like clinging to people? Maybe a gigolo job suits you." Cole narrowed his eyes and chuckled coldly. You seriously think you're the winner here, big brother? He stepped forward and punched Blake hard in the chest. His voice was low and even. There are things you've lost from the very beginning. You can force a lot in this world, but not in someone's heart. Hearts are earned, not seized. If you're that capable, then escape. Otherwise, he leaned in, voice dropping. Let's raise the stakes. I'll give you 10 minutes. Share your location. If I find you before you find him, he stays mine. Oh, and one more thing. If I win, you have to kiss me. Deal? Natalie didn't hesitate. Deal. She sprinted out of the room, thinking fast. The Song estate was huge. He couldn't be in obvious places like a guest room or a main hallway. He had to be somewhere secluded, but big enough to hold someone, like the garage or the cold storage. She made a break for it. Her jaw clenched. But she didn't resist. She had made a deal. She stood on tiptoe and reluctantly kissed Blake on the cheek. His ears flushed red instantly. So the playboy's pretending to be innocent now? She thought bitterly. Blake, thrilled, kicked open the freezer door with swagger. You hear that, bastard? Your sweet little girl just kissed me, willingly. Down in the garage, she searched frantically. 5 minutes passed. Nothing. She dashed through a hallway and collided with a cleaning lady holding a frozen fish. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you all right? Watch it, sweetheart. That fish is rock solid. Didn't scratch you, did it? No, I'm fine, Natalie replied, catching her breath. Then a spark of hope hit her. Ma'am, could you tell me where the walk-in freezer is? Right over there, the woman pointed. But someone said it's off limits now. Aren't you the one handling the fruit? If you need to get in, here, use my spare key. Just leave it outside the door when you're done. Natalie took the key, heart racing. Only 2 minutes left. Blake was on his way. She had to hurry. Thank you, she mumbled and sprinted toward the cold storage. Reaching the heavy steel door, she knocked hard. Cole? Cole, are you in there? Say something, I'm opening the door. No response. Her heart sank in disappointment. She turned away, trying to guess where else he could be. Then a weak voice rasped behind the door. Natalie? She spun around, shoved the key into the lock. But before she could open it, a strong grip caught her wrist. Blake. He grinned, smug. Wrapping his arms around her from behind, he whispered, Game's over. I found you first. That means I win. So, about that promise. Natalie seethed, jaw clenched, but she didn't resist. She had made a deal. She stood on tiptoe and reluctantly kissed Blake on the cheek. His ears flushed red instantly. So the playboy's pretending to be innocent now? She thought bitterly. Blake, thrilled, kicked open the freezer door with swagger. You hear that, bastard? Your sweet little girl just kissed me, willingly. Inside, Cole lay half naked on the frozen floor, bruised and bloody. She helped him to his feet. They headed for the exit, only to realize the door was locked from the outside. She groaned. Great! He locked us in. Did Blake do this too? Or are you losing your mind now? Cole's lips were pale, his skin clammy from the cold. His strength was fading fast. Natalie took off her coat and wrapped it around him tighter. They huddled together, eyes closed, bodies trembling. Then, a splash of ice-cold water hit them. Natalie's eyes shot open. 2 of Blake's goons stood in the doorway, one holding an empty bucket, the other sneering. Well, well, the girl mocked. Didn't think you'd actually go that low. Messing around with the bastard while being Blake's girl. Pathetic. The man beside her snorted. What a joke. Spent all those years hanging around just to marry into wealth, and this is your grand move? The girl crossed her arms. We already called Miss Tessa Song. Let's see how long your little fantasy lasts when she gets here. Cole started coughing, his body burning up from fever. He was still unconscious, barely breathing. The group outside kept jeering. Blake's mom values reputation more than anything. You're done. Just wait and see. Then came a commotion. Tessa Song had arrived. Her elegant presence silenced the room. She looked around and saw the blood on the floor, the mess, and Natalie holding the barely conscious Cole. Clenched. The sight of his injured body and the icy air sent chills through her spine. She rushed to him, wrapping him in a blanket. He looked up weakly, still managing a crooked smile. Well, I guess I broke a record. Took a beating, froze half to death, and still didn't black out. He leaned into her. Don't worry, I'm okay, just cold. She stroked his head. You idiot. You could have died. Why did you let him get to you like that? Cole gave her a faint smile. I never fought him over anything before, but this time, I wanted to fight for you. Natalie squeezed his hand. That's sweet, but you need to get to a hospital now. The girl stepped forward, smug. Miss Song, see for yourself. This gold digger's disgusting. Tried to seduce Blake. Now she's with his half-brother. She's shameless. Honestly, she's beneath all of us. Murmurs of disgust rippled through the room. She's not from a good family. She's totally uneducated. No class. She doesn't belong in our circle. Tessa stepped forward calmly, lifted Natalie up gently, and asked softly, Tell me what happened. Her voice was so genuine, so calm, Natalie felt her throat tighten. Tears stung the back of her eyes. But she couldn't say anything. Her work contract strictly forbade any action that could damage the family's image. Exposing Blake's actions would be a breach. She'd owe more in penalties than she could pay in 10 lifetimes. She was still searching for a way to explain herself. Then Cole suddenly stood up. He put himself between her and everyone else. I love her, he said. I brought her here yesterday to confess. We didn't expect the freezer to get locked. He bowed slightly. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. It was my fault. Bad timing. The light hit his figure just right. Tall, graceful, sincere. The room fell quiet. Tessa glanced at the fresh blood on his arm. She was about to speak when Blake burst into the room. His fury was unfiltered. Natalie had left without a word, and he was livid. But then he saw her bare shoulder, the blanket wrapped around her and Cole, and his mind jumped to one conclusion. Everyone else did too. From his angle, Blake didn't see Tessa. He assumed it was just his people present. No need to put on a mask. You bastard, he growled. You actually slept with my girl? He grabbed a porcelain vase from a side table and hurled it blindly. Tessa stepped forward, trying to stop it. But porcelain doesn't care who's in the way. The vase shattered against her head. Blood poured down her temple. A shocked gasp escaped her lips as she collapsed. Everyone froze. Blake turned pale the second he saw her crumple to the floor. Tessa Song was rushed to the hospital. The impact had left a deep gash across her face, her once flawless beauty marred. The moment her grandfather saw her bloodied and unconscious in the ER, his fury knew no bounds. By the next morning, one of the major partnerships between the Song family and the Carter Corporation was suspended. Worse, the scandal hit the news cycle and quickly spread through the elite circles of B City. It became the story of the week. Mr. Carter Sr. was livid. For 3 days straight, he scolded Blake. Blake stood silently in the doorway, cigarette in hand, a cold glint in his eyes. He remained as arrogant and detached as ever, completely unbothered by the violence he'd unleashed. Well played, he muttered. The chessboard was clever, But don't think for a second I'm letting you go. Forget about Cole. If you push me, I can't guarantee he'll still be breathing. Natalie sat in the chair across the room, staring blankly out the window. The image of Cole stepping in front of her replayed in her mind over and over again. He knew how dangerous Blake was. Everyone did. But he had still stood up to him. And maybe that's when it started. The feeling inside her heart. That fragile, blooming thing. Love. Because when you love someone, you want to protect them. Natalie picked up a calligraphy pen and quietly wrote her vow on a sheet of rice paper. I won't betray what's real. Then she folded it neatly, stood up, and walked toward Blake with steady eyes. There's something I've been meaning to tell you, she said. Blake, the truth is, I was hired. By your mother, back when you were in 11th grade. Her words landed like a soft blade, cutting straight through him. Blake stared at her in disbelief. What? What did you just say? I said, I was hired. By your mom. His eyes, always sharp and merciless, turned misty. He stared into hers, searching for a lie. He didn't find one. After a long pause, he reached out and gripped her shoulders, his voice trembling. Then tell me, did you ever feel anything for me? Anything real? God damn it, say something, she sighed. It was just a job, Blake. He let go of her like she burned him. His laugh was hollow. You really know how to crush a guy. She clenched her fists. In truth, there had been a time when she'd seen him as a friend. But that friendship had long since blurred into something much more complicated. Without another word, Blake walked out. He didn't explode. He didn't scream. He just left, quiet and strangely calm. Natalie immediately reported the incident to Mrs. Carter. The woman didn't scold her. Instead, she handed Natalie a luxurious gift box and a platinum bank card. Thank you, Natalie, Mrs. Carter said, her voice genuinely soft. I know this will hurt Blake, but as his mother, I don't regret it. Nothing matters more to me than keeping him alive. Natalie accepted the gifts with no particular expression. Mrs. Carter sat at her desk, exhaustion written on her elegant face. When Blake was little, he was a normal boy. But I pressured him too much. I wanted him to win. I was afraid if he wasn't perfect, he'd lose everything to Cole. So I kept pushing. His childhood was never happy. She looked down at the data on her screen. Lately, he's been acting out. My father-in-law has started transferring projects to Cole instead. But I don't care about the company anymore. As long as Blake's okay, that's enough for me. She turned to Natalie and gently took her hand. I finally understand that success doesn't define a child. I should have loved him better. Thank you. You've done what you came here to do. It's time to start your own life. That last line brought tears to Natalie's eyes. She suddenly thought of her own mother. How many times had she misunderstood her growing up? She hugged Mrs. Carter tightly. My mum and I fought too. But as long as there's love, misunderstandings can always be worked out. Later, gossip buzzed around the same B-City chat group Natalie had once accidentally joined. You guys here? The Carter family handed over half their resources to Cole. Yeah, the kid's been making bold moves. Every investment he's made has turned profit. Honestly, Carter Corp might favour him more than Blake now. Remember when I used to badmouth him? Look at him now, driving a brand new custom sports car. Rumours swirled that the first wife was pitiful, but the mother of the illegitimate son was even more tragic. People whispered about Mr. Carter's past, how he'd tricked a young woman by pretending to be unmarried, only for her to find out he had a family after she gave birth. He beat her down emotionally, but kept her hidden and funded her life for years. Years of scandal buried and glossed over until now. Damn, She was stunning, someone commented in the group chat. A photo popped up. Natalie tapped it. Those alluring eyes, almond-shaped and shadowed just right, were exactly like Cole's. No wonder he was so ridiculously handsome. Setting her phone down, Natalie wheeled her suitcase through the garden path, only to be stopped by a convertible blocking the driveway. A familiar voice called out cheerfully, "Hey, I came to pick you up. Look, I have a car too." Cole Carter's eyes gleamed mischievously, a dimple forming on his cheek as he grinned and popped the trunk open. "Where's your new place? I'll take you. And if you don't have one yet," he winked, "you can always crash at my new condo." Natalie laughed, waving him off. "Just take me to the airport. I'm heading back to City D." "City D?" Cole's smile faltered. "You're just gonna ditch both me and the Carter estate like that?" Seeing how adorably disappointed he looked, Natalie reached out and pinched his cheek. "You're too charming for your own good. Stop pouting." Cole shrugged playfully. "I only act this way with you." Then he pulled something from the car and held it out. A delicate figurine of the flower goddess. "We won the boat race," he said proudly. "The organizers disqualified Blake for cheating and gave me the prize. I figured you'd want it more than anyone." Natalie held the figurine, her thoughts spiraling. She took a deep breath. "That day, why did you step up? If you had told them you liked me, they would have told Blake. You didn't have to." Cole looked down, his lashes shadowing his eyes. "I'm used to it by now. Being looked down on. Being the illegitimate one. I've been shameless for years. Doesn't bother me anymore. But thanks for caring." Natalie gazed at him, steady. "Don't do that. Don't belittle yourself. You're incredible, Cole. Better than you know." He grinned, visibly touched. "Well, I have been doing all right lately." Natalie glanced at her watch and gasped. "Crap! My flight's in 3 hours." Cole hit the gas. The top-down convertible roared onto the highway, wind in their hair. Even with the rush, they missed her flight by 10 minutes. "No big deal," Cole said, already pulling out his phone to buy 2 new evening tickets. When they landed in City D, Cole stuck by her like glue. Natalie got the feeling he had something planned. Sure enough, after dinner, he tilted his head and said innocently, "Hey, I've never been to your place before. Mind if I stop by? I really want to meet your golden retriever." Natalie rolled her eyes. "Is stalking people a Carter family tradition?" He laughed. "Well, if a man doesn't confess his feelings, what's the point? I think we make a great team, you and me. We've faced enough chaos together. We've got shared values. A great foundation for exploring the meaning of life and love." "Speak English, fox boy." Cole smirked and pulled out a dainty rose gold bracelet. "I like you." Natalie chuckled, flicked his forehead lightly, but didn't pull her hand away when he slipped the bracelet on. His gaze softened. "Don't joke around. I want a real answer." Natalie didn't respond with words. Instead, she handed him the piece of calligraphy paper she'd once written on. Cole opened it, reading aloud with awe. "I won't betray what's real." He wrapped his arms around her. "I just want your heart to match mine, and I swear I won't ever take that for granted." Then he kissed her cheek, again and again, beaming with joy. "Guess I'm officially off the market." Natalie's smile grew. She pulled him down and kissed him back. After leaving the Carter estate, life slowly began to settle. Natalie worked in the bakery, which had doubled as a therapy hub for students struggling with mental health. She listened as a shy teenager tearfully confessed to being isolated just because she didn't fit in. "I just process things a little slower," the girl said through sniffles. "But people think I'm weird." Natalie handed her a tissue and kept her tone gentle, comforting. The girl didn't even realize Natalie was a counselor, just felt safe talking to the kind woman behind the counter. Natalie and Van, her partner in the business, had chosen this healing cafe model intentionally. The bakery made enough profit to sustain the space. For the emotional support element, they'd hired part-time psych majors from a nearby university. Students left anonymous letters in a hollowed tree trunk outside. Depending on the message's tone, someone from the team would reach out and invite the writer to pick up a gifted dessert, along with a quiet, one-on-one session in the cafe. It had helped more people than they ever imagined. Cole kept flying back and forth between cities for work and school. That week, he was especially busy, and Natalie had been staying late. One night, as she passed a dim intersection, she spotted a tall figure leaning against a wall, half-shadowed. It was Blake. He stood silently, cigarette glowing in the dark, until he spoke. "You never finished what you were saying," he murmured. Natalie froze. She remembered exactly what he meant. Their last conversation. "I did think of you as a friend," she said slowly. "But more as a patient." Natalie remembered what Van once told her. Blake Carter was different now. No more reckless late-night parties. No more outbursts of rage. He'd calmed down, grown up, changed. For real. She looked up, locking eyes with him. Those dark eyes still carried a hint of something broken. "Blake," she said softly, "you've gotten more handsome lately." His cheeks flushed faintly. "You're more mature now," she continued. Then Cole muttered, "Don't believe you. I swear, don't be dramatic, Hottie." There was a growl through the phone. "Come downstairs." "What?" "I'm outside." Natalie threw on a jacket, rushed to the window. Yep. There he was, standing under the streetlight, arms crossed, face full of faux betrayal. She rushed down. "Well, well," Cole said, squinting at her. "You sure that hot guy's out of sight? Didn't stash him under your bed?" Natalie stepped up and pinched his cheek. "I told you it was Blake. He just came to talk." Then he left. Cole pouted, his cheeks puffed up like an annoyed golden retriever. "So now you've got a secret backup boyfriend. That's low. Less impulsive. Your career's on the rise, and even how people talk about you has changed. So don't be so down," she added. "Sometimes losing something is exactly what helps us grow." Blake didn't respond with words, just gave a dramatic huff, though the slight curl at the corner of his mouth betrayed how pleased he actually was. Natalie couldn't help thinking, this guy's emotional maturity still feels stuck at 16. "Don't think just because Cole's doing better now that he's got it all figured out," Blake muttered. "Watch me. I'm going to shoot past him in no time." "Natalie, you better not regret any of this." With that, he walked off and slipped into a waiting car. The vehicle pulled away, and just as it disappeared down the street, Natalie's phone buzzed. "Blake Carter, thanks." Natalie lay on her bed, texting her boyfriend. "Cole, my aunt said you were flirting with some hot guy late at night." "Natalie, which aunt? The one who still owes me money from poker night?" "Wow. Humanity is disappointing." Cole called instantly. His voice came through, playfully accusatory. "Who was that guy, huh? He got an 8-pack. He's hotter than me?" Natalie laughed. "Honestly, he kinda looked like you." Natalie laughed. "Honestly, he kinda looked like you." Cole's voice sharpened. "Oh, great. So you're into my body double now?" "Babe, I work hard, live clean, and you out here playing around with, what? A stand-in?" She grinned. "Relax, that guy was your brother." There was a beat of silence. She couldn't help but laugh. "Come on," she said, exasperated. "How could I have another boyfriend when I've got the clingiest one on earth?" Still sulking, Cole handed her a small gift. She blinked. What's this? I don't know. Just something to say sorry for being jealous. But also, you're mine, just so we're clear. Natalie smiled, softened, and pulled him close. Cole smirked, then scooped her right off her feet and carried her upstairs. Dear listeners, today's emotional love story comes to a close. If it touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to support our team in bringing more tender, unforgettable stories to life. Wishing you endless joy, gentle days, and a heart always filled with love. Until we meet again in the next story, take care and stay inspired.